Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a video with a really simple card to share with you. I am using the Stockings mini stamp set from Colorado Craft Company. In the past I created one card already with this adorable stamp set. It's a really small one, so price wise it's really lovely. From time to time I really love buying these really small stamps so that I can just have some fun with new images, but not having to buy a complete big set also means a smaller budget. So that's really lovely. I already made one card with it, I think last year or beginning this year, and there I used a square stencil, the square extraordinary stencil, and I use my Copic markers to create a squared kind of background, really simple. Today I'm using distress inks to help me with the background. You can see them here. I'm going to create a gradient, and I'm also going to create this gradient on 3 different sized circles on my panel here. So I have an A2 sized panel. I die cut it using the basic rectangles from Mama Elephant, which is just my go-to basic rectangles kind of die. Any die will do. And then I took this bubble stencil from Fawn, and you have several bubbles here. I just made sure to mask off all of the other areas that I wasn't going to smudge my panel where I didn't want any ink to be. And I'm going to sort of add these circles in a non-regular triangle kind of way, the way that I also love adding embellishments. It just works design-wise, in my opinion. So I made sure to mask off the other areas, also using some purple tape to make sure that that stencil is staying in place, because while blending, things can shift. So I'm just using my inks, and the higher I go, the darker I want these circles to be. And the bottom one, I wanted sort of to have it fade into a white kind of area to represent the snow where my critter was standing on. So I'm just making sure to have all of my blends here. My first bubble was kind of light, so I just went back in there. Later on, after adding my sentiment even, I am going to darken that second circle as well, because it just was a tiny bit too light. And there we go for our final piece. This is not really necessary to do. You can also keep it to one circle, but I didn't want this card to be kind of the same as my squared one, so therefore I have this extended scene going on, really simple. So the Stockings mini stamp set has this lovely branch, and then this I think it's a red, however, that is hanging stockings on top of that branch, and then there is a tiny bird watching. Now, non-intentionally, my bubbles were exactly the size that I needed to have for these words. Originally, I wanted to use the third sentiment in this set, but then I saw that it kind of looked like the same size, those other words, and I really love how the joy and the peace later on will fit perfectly inside of these circles. So for the coloring, I went for really simple. I'm using all kind of browns. You can find all of the combinations on my blog post. And then I have the stockings. They will be reddish pinkish. And I wanted this to be kind of a robin bird, so I went for this pink kind of belly to match with the rest. So a really soft light brown bird, and then it's going over into that pinkish area. So just back and forth. I don't do this often, and I have said it many times before, I find birds really hard to color, but I'm really glad with how this one turned out. For the red, I am going to also use a really soft brown combination, slightly different, a tiny bit darker with this E37, but the other markers you will kind of see that they are exactly the same. So I'm trying to have my shadows kind of on the outside or the back of every critter. So the bird is facing towards the right, I have the shadows on the left side. The rat is facing towards the left, so I have the shadows on the right side. Kind of trying to have a centered light source here. And then just adding those final details to the rat here. Just using E13 and E11 to help me with the tail and the feet, and then it's just the stockings. Now for the stockings, you can go really out there, you can decide whatever you want to do. Just to keep it simple, I was stuck with like twice red, going towards that pinkish color that I also have on the bird, to have everything matching. And then once I've done that, I'm going to take the matching dies to cut these two images out, and then we can look design wise what is going to work. So as I said, originally I wanted to use the other sentiment, but these two just fit perfectly. So I decided to white heat emboss the sentiments in these two circles. So I'm using the Ranger embossing powder. This one is the white, super fine detail. It's a really lovely one, but just make sure to beforehand always prep your panel, because sometimes after ink blending it can stay wet quite a long time, and then you have to remove kind of a lot embossing powder before being able to heat set that. So you can only help yourself by prepping ahead of time that. I'm using thin foam squares for all of these images. I'm going to create smaller ones to be able to put that branch with a bit of dimension on top. Just using a scissor and then snipping these squares into tiny slivers to go behind this. And then I will add it as well. Now currently I haven't buffed off all of the excess anti-static powder that is on those circles, so the joy and the peace, it's kind of muted still, but once you buff off the excess, it will really jump from your card. And it was kind of at this moment that I realized that the second circle was like really dull blue, and it wasn't dark enough. So I decided to take the stencil again. It wasn't that easy because I have dimension going on, so I just tried to keep it put with my fingers, and then I decided to go a bit darker on the top, and here I didn't mask off enough area, so I just tried to remove things with several erasers. In the end you cannot see it, so that's really lovely, but I just twisted the stencil because I had more room there, and then I just added a bit of that darker color on top. Now buffing off the excess ink here on the piece, and it just jumps right off of that bubble. So next I decided to create some snowflakes here and there, so I just went with my white jelly roll pen all over. I first avoided the images, but then later on I decided to add some white jelly roll pen details on top of the images. You can also do some splattering, but the thing was that I really wanted my white from my white cardstock to stay that without any like snow, to really draw the attention towards those circles that we added. So I ended up using my white jelly roll pen to not having to mask off again and then splatter all around. So I'm going to add my panel now onto my card base, and then my card is completely finished. It took me a bit of time to get this video up here. I already shared the card on Sunday on Instagram, but thank you so much for waiting for it and still checking it out. I truly appreciate you all being here. I hope that my card today could inspire you in a way. And while we're closing in on Christmas, I have tons of more inspiration for you, and I will also have some videos with multiple cards in it. So I hope that towards Christmas you will all get your Christmas cards done like I'm doing right now. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!